Well, good morning, stamping friends. Welcome to my YouTube Live. My name is Lorri Heiling, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I'm anxious to share with you today. I do have to tell you where I got my inspiration for the card I'm going to share with you. There's a demonstrator named Patty Bennett, and I saw her card, and I thought, I'm going to play around with this technique. I changed up some of the things and used different colors, but the original post that I saw was from her, and then I was inspired by her. This is a card that I used for my swap recently for my team get together. So it's just really fun, and it uses a celebration item. So get out your blending brushes. I am anxious to share this little technique with you. And I also wanted to mention that this card is actually easier than it looks. So I think you're going to enjoy this. For today's card, there's two stamp sets that we are going to be using. They are Paradise Palms and Driving By. Now this one is going to be a really fun set for this summer. Oh, doesn't it just put you in the mood for vacation? I love this set. And the other one is Driving By. And did you know this is a free celebration? This does not cost you anything if you put a $50 order in. So we are going to use this cute little van here and turn it into kind of a retro van. So let's get started with the card. I'm going to share with you how we're going to create the scenery on the front of the card. And the colors that I'm going to use to make the water are Pool Party, Balmy Blue, and Bermuda Bay. What I did was I took a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of cardstock, and I went up probably about 1.5 inches from the bottom. You can play around with that, but what you'll want to do is line up the bottom of your paper so it's straight along one of those lines. And do you see the main line here? That's what I want to match up with my post-it note. Now you can see my yellow post-it note wasn't quite long enough to cover the whole card front, so I just extended it with a regular post-it note. And just follow that black line, and that way we know that this is a straight horizon is actually what we're going to make. So we're going to start with the lightest color, which is Pool Party, and then grab your blending brush. And you know, you don't need a fresh brush for every single color that Stampin' Up! Has. That would be quite a few brushes. So what I do is I kind of stay in the same tone with one color. And so these are all kind of my lighter to medium blues, and I probably would switch it up if I used, say, Night of Navy, because that one's really dark. But for this tone, I'm just going to use all the same ones. So what you do is you just rub your brush in circles, and then always go off the page a little bit, and we're just going to fill this whole bottom third of the card with Pool Party ink. And just make small circles. The best rule of thumb is to start light, and you can always add more, but if you start out too dark, then you can't undo what you've done. So just start light, and we're gonna gradually make an ombre color and work towards the top so it gets darker. So that's pretty good. Maybe just one more little layer here to get a little bit darker. All right, now the next one we're going to use is our Balmy Blue. Let me grab that. So when we do Balmy Blue, we're just going to get most of the ink out of here. Just keep rubbing it over here, and then I'm going to do this a couple times just so I know I have the Balmy Blue in there. Now we're just going to try to skip the very bottom and go up about 1/3 and just start adding another layer of color, but don't go way down to the bottom because we want it to eventually get a little bit darker as we move up. So just small circles again. All right, I'll do one more layer. That's blending nice because we do already have that Pool Party layer underneath there. All right, that looks pretty good. Do you see how it kind of is gradual? It's really light there, then we get a little darker. And now we're gonna do one final layer, which is Bermuda Bay. This one's gonna be quite a bit darker. So again, we'll kind of get the ink out of that one and then put it in our Bermuda Bay. Do this a couple times, and then always start by inking off of the paper. That way you won't get a big smudge circle as you do this. And then I even start up here. And by the way, I'm going to use a different colored post-it note when I do the sky part, because sometimes that blue will carry over because there's a lot of ink on there. So we want to use a fresh piece. And now this is going to add that darker layer on top, and I want this quite a bit darker, so we'll do a few times and try to get it blended where it met the Balmy Blue. So the more you do this, I've already done, I think, about 14 of these sheets, so I'm kind of in the groove here, but and then you can always go back and say you wanted maybe the Bermuda Bay color a little bit more. You can go back and just stick it in, or not Bermuda Bay, but Balmy Blue, so you can go back and do more. All right, that looks pretty good. Now let's do the reveal. And then we'll start on the skyline right away. So just peel this, and like I said, this is making that horizon. Isn't that pretty? Ombre look. All right, now let's get your second color of Post-it note, and we're gonna flip this upside down. You can see this is my skyline colors, and we're just gonna place this right on top, maybe just like 1/32 of an inch down, because we do not want a white gap in there. So just barely down, so you barely see a line of the blue. All right, now let me show you the color palette for our sky. Oh, I played around with a lot of colors for these as well. And I ended up with Mango Melody, Calypso Coral, Pumpkin Pie, and Cajun Craze. And so I have about 3 different oranges. I'm gonna guess which ones I used. All right, this looks like the lighter one, and this one's the darker one, and I think I can use that one for 2 colors. But like I said, you can probably get away with 1 brush for this, but I just have so many that I tend to use, you know, a couple for 1 shade. All right, I'm gonna start with Mango Melody, and this is gonna be our lightest color. And so I'm gonna do the whole thing in Mango Melody, but I'm gonna do it super light because we're just kind of getting a base here. So just very light. And I kind of hang on to the end of the handle because then I don't apply quite as much pressure. All right, just barely anything right here. Now I want to put a sun in here. So what I did was I took this is a 1 1/4, I think I used 1 1/4 inch circle, and I saved all my punches, but if you don't have a punch, the dies work. And then just place your sun where you'd like that to go, and I'll go kind of maybe over about 1/3. And this is gonna create like a little layer of a circle, so it looks like there's a sun setting, because that's the colors that we're using in this one. So now let's switch gears and go to Calypso Coral, and this is gonna add a little bit of rosiness into our sunset, and I think I can get by with this brush again. So let's get that mango out of there, and let's add some coral and just swirl it over here and make sure there's some of that coral in there. And now I'm gonna start by going close to the sun and lightly, and just add another layer, and you see how it's getting a little bit rosy, and then spread it out to the edges. Try not to go down by this line, because again, we want that ombre look. So just around there and around the sun again. Very nice. All right, be a little bit towards out to the edges because we're going to be covering that up again. All right, see, it doesn't really take that much. Now we're going to add Pumpkin Pie. Each time we're getting a little bit darker here. I'm going to switch gears to this brush now because this is darker. Let's go in circles. See that orangey? Oh, this is going to be so pretty. You know what? I always say sunsets are my thing, and they stop me in my tracks. If I'm driving, I'll usually text someone. I have one of my friends, she's into sunsets as well. And we'll say, stop what you're doing, go look at the sunset. And if you look at our texts, they're always like, take a look at the sunset. I love it. We always comment on that. I just know in heaven there's sunsets. But it's just, I don't know, in Arizona, I always compare them to Hawaii sunsets because they're so gorgeous. Maybe it's because it's so dusty here. I don't know. But all right, there's a nice little layer of a little bit darker. And the last one we're gonna do is Cajun Craze. Now this one's quite a bit darker, so you for sure are gonna wanna do less is more. And then keep adding if you'd like. So let's put some ink in there. Look at how dark that one is. And I start with the edges here and then just kind of slowly go down. See how it's making it one layer darker? And then kind of blend it in, go lighter as you go down. But we definitely want the sides of this and the top to be really dark. We want to make one of those awesome sunsets. And again, if you want to go back and pull in more of another color, feel free to. But always remember, don't go too far down, otherwise you're just covering up what you already did. So you want to leave a little bit of space so you see that last color in there. All right, now we're going to pull off our little Post-it note here so we can see what that sun looks like. And then one more little step, go back and grab your lightest color, because there seems to be kind of a really strong, oh, look at how pretty that is, but let's reveal sunset. There always seems to be like a really sharp line here where the sun is, and I want to soften that a little bit. So the best thing to do for that is just go back with your lightest color and just lightly go over that sun again. And it'll just kind of make the sun a little bit more blended in and not so harsh, like white on the background. All right, Now, isn't that pretty? Here's what our sunset and horizon looks like, and then the water below it. I want to share with you some Post-it notes that I've found on Amazon that's really been helpful for when I'm stamping. This is called Post-it Note Full Stick Notes, which means the whole square is sticky. You know, usually when you get Post-it notes, they're just sticky at the top. But this is the whole thing, except where this little dashed line is. And I think they do that so that you can grab it and pick it up. So the reason we need this special kind is, let me show you. I'm going to mask this cute little van, and I'm going to show you, because I think I cut out 3 different ones trying to get this mask in the right spot, and finally I got it. So I want to share with you to save you a little bit of time and headache. But I just love this cute little van. It looks so retro, don't you think? All right, let me show you where I cut out. I actually made a little line on this one because I kept trying to redo it and I kept messing up again. So I'm going to show you, it's where that pencil line is. So let me set that there and see if you can follow along as I cut. It's going to take me a little bit, so I might have to kind of fast forward the video. All right, the parts I want you to make note of are, you want that little headlight or fender or whatever that is up there. So make sure you get that in this part, and the wheel only, that little bumper there, then down by the bottom, and then make sure you get those 3 little things. So it should look exactly like this. Maybe I'll take a still picture of that as well. For this next part, I want to show you how I do the tie-dye look on the van. And so I just stamped a bunch of these. I'm going to show you a couple different ideas. Okay, I have been going to town here. You can see my masks are very well used, but I'm just going to stick them back on. And actually, I think those sticky notes that I showed you, they're actually even more sticky than the basic ones that everybody has in their home, probably because they're sticky everywhere. That's probably the difference. All right, the colors I'm using, again, are Polished Pink, Granny Apple Green, Daffodil Delight, and Pool Party. And I like to start with the lightest color first, and wait till you see this fancy schmancy tool that I have. I am using plain old Q-tips. These are my color palettes. I tried daubers. These are definitely too big. You know, you could, if you wanted to, I did a couple where I just brushed the whole thing in yellow and then went back and did some of this, but this is the easiest way to get a small splotch. So I take the lightest color, which is yellow, and you're just going to make light circles. You can always go darker, but less is more. And so start light and just make random blotches. Whoops. And don't forget the top of it. And we're just going to start our little tie-dye design like this. All right. And you don't have to make them all circle. You can make them kind of odd shaped. Don't worry about white space, because I'll show you how we're going to fix that in the end. Then I have green. Now, if your pads are really juicy, then that's a bad thing. Don't re-ink. I re-inked my Granny Apple Green, and I shouldn't have, because now it's too juicy. So for the green, I always have to come over here and get a lot of it off and then come over. Otherwise, it almost looks like olive. And so I dip it, wipe most of it off, and then just lightly, that's the color I want, more of the limey green rather than the darker. So you can learn from my mistake. Do not ink or re-ink right before you do this. All right, now the next one we're going to do is the pink. And so we're just doing basically the same thing. Start light. You can always add more. And again, don't worry about white space. And just kind of butt them up to each other. And then we just have one more color to go in. I need a little more pink though. If you want it darker, go ahead, but we are going to add some things on top of this, so you don't want it too dark, otherwise you won't see that. And then the last one is the Pool Party. And be careful when you're doing this, because sometimes I would actually dip the wrong end of the Q-tip, and then you're going to have kind of a muddled mess of color. So just make sure you put the Q-tip in the correct color. Almost done here. All right, now when I told you don't worry about the white space, this is how we're going to do the blending. I am going to go back to my lightest color, which is yellow, and this is kind of like my blending color too. So I'm just going to kind of blend all of it together, and it'll kind of smooth out those lines where those seams are. And for some reason, the yellow seems to do a good job for blending, probably because it's the lighter color. So just kind of go back and blend it like that. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to add a little bit more green in here. This one got a little bit too light. There we go. And then blend it with the yellow again. All right, now it's time to add some more groovy graphics here. And I found Sweet as a Peach, and sure enough, right up here you see 3 little flowers. That's the size that I wanted. So I was making a dozen of these cards, and so let me show you what I did before I show you what I want to demonstrate today. I took the 3 colors, and when you color on stamps, you need to use Stampin' Write markers because blends will dry too fast, and by the time you ink them up, even if you huff on it, it's going to be dried already and nothing will stamp or pick up on there. So the 3 colors I'm using are Granny Apple Green, Polished Pink, and Coastal Cabana. Isn't that a pretty combination? And then we'll have it with our yellow here. All right, so this is what I did first round. I wanted the largest flower pink, so I colored this in pink. And then doesn't matter the rest, they're the same size. And then 1 green, because I didn't want all the same color. You know, retro is all different colors of flowers, kind of like Flower Power. And I'm not going to do it on the van yet because I'm going to show you what we're going to do. I'll just stamp it on my sheet here. So now you can huff on it and then just stamp. And do you see how you can get 3 different colors from one stamp? However, it takes, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 or 7 maybe different times coloring this to get the effect I wanted. So every time I did that, now you have to go back and color it in again. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to take me a whole day to do this, because then I'd stamp another one and then another one. So let me show you what I'm going to do. And I haven't done it yet. I wanted to do it on camera so that you can see, because I have a hard time doing this, but for what I want to create, and based on that I haven't even used this stamp before, even though I have the peach set, I am going to take this off. And let me get 3 more little blocks. Can you guess what I'm going to do? Oh my gosh, some of my team members do this all the time, but I have a hard time. I just get so nervous doing this, but for me to finish this in a decent amount of time, this is what I'm going to have to do. I'm just taking my paper snips, and I am going to carefully cut the photopolymer. And so I can just dip this in the ink. Now you have to be so careful with this because these are so tiny, and if you sneeze, they're going to go flying across the room and you're never going to find it again. Just make sure you're cutting not the flower, but in between. These 2 are super close, but it cuts so easily. There it went flying, but luckily I can still see it. So my best advice to you is when you are done with these, make sure you put them right back in here, because these could be lost easily. So rather than color them all with these, now I can just take my ink pads and let me find my right colors here. Here we go. So let's start with pink, because I said I wanted the largest flower all in pink. So now I can do all these one at a time. Oops, you know what? I need one more. I need to cut one more mask here because I don't want the flowers in the windows. So just cut around the trim and the windows, and we will place this mask on top. Half the time used on this card is just prepping with your masks and stuff, but once you're done now, it'll go fast. Remember I told you the little trick about the flowers? All right, so I'm kind of accentuating the pink. So I'm just going to take the pink and start making my little flowers all over and random. And remember, make some go off the page and into the Post-it notes because all this will be cut out. Then I'm going to do the smaller size. We'll skip yellow because yellow's not going to show up too much. Let's do some Pool Party. And remember, don't press too hard or you're going to have like the, I call them ultrasounds, when you have blops where you don't want them. And this way we can make lots of different colors. And let me grab the last color of Granny Apple Green. Again, I'm gonna have to stamp off because look at how dark that is. And let's put some greens in here. There. All right, now I want to show you one more way to do this, and this way it'll give you kind of 2 rounds of coloring and a review. Remember, whoopsie, the first thing you need to do is take your mask off. I will be going in and coloring the wheels with the gray, but I mainly want to show you the blending for the tie-dye right now. And then we want to cover up the window as well. I have to make a dozen of these, so too bad there's not a punch, but this is Celebration, which means it will not be around forever. By the way, this stamp set is free if you have a $50 order, and it is so worth it just for this cute little van. We're not done with it. I haven't even showed you the whole card yet, what we're going to do with this, but I just think it's fun to change things up a little, and I know it takes a little bit more time, but it's okay. Sometimes it's worth it just to give a new look instead of same old, same old. All right, then let's do pink. You can see I'm just lightly dabbing little areas. You can play up different colors if you like those, or maybe you introduce some that I'm not even using, like Highland Heather might be pretty in here as well. And then sometimes it automatically makes a new color, like say when you put yellow and green together, it kind of makes a little blue on its own. So, and then we need our green that I always have to wipe off. And the last color is the blue. Pool Party. All right, now let's go and blend all those colors together again with that yellow, and it'll smooth out the edges. See how it kind of like, it just brings it together. It's hard to describe what it actually does, but it just kind of smooths out the edges and brings it all together. Blends those lines that are touching each other. All right, now even though I love the look of different colored flowers, I want to show you, if you don't like that many, if that's too busy and too many colors, I'm going to kind of retract on what I did. Remember, I cut them apart for a purpose, but now I'm going to put them all back together again. So if you don't want to cut them apart and you'd rather just have all the same flowers, then don't even bother. But I really wanted to give it a different look with you know, different colors. Okay, now I'm just going to make all pink ones. Whoops, this one stayed on the, oh, I think I put it on upside down actually. There we go. It looks good with all the same colors too, so whatever your preference is, but there you go. The next part of our video, we're going to take our card front and we are going to build some ground, because remember, we already made that little van that's going to be driving along the beach. And so we need to put some ground. Now, normally I'd probably do a sand color, but I'm going to do something different, and we are going to make kind of a silhouette look to this card. So what I'm going to do is take Memento Black, and I'm just going to make a little ground. And what's nice about this stamp is that it's distinctive, which means it's going to pull darker colors where probably the dots are a little more dense, and then it makes a lighter area as well. So we just want to randomly go across here, and you can even turn it upside down if you want. You don't want it to look like a true pattern is happening. And it actually looks like volcano rock, but you'll get the idea after I add the palms. All right, so just kind of make that more black. Isn't there a black beach somewhere in the United States, in Hawaii? All right, now we are going to do that silhouette look that I was telling you about. So the first thing we're going to do is do the palm trees, and I'm going to take the larger palm and ink this up. You could do color if you wanted, but like I said, I want this silhouette look. So we're just going to put one up here, and I like things in odd numbers. So we're going to go one there, one down here, and one over here. The next thing we'll do is put the bottoms of the palm trees, and they're just going to go right in the ground that we just made. Isn't that kind of a cool look? Make that one curve a little bit, and then the last one over here. Now we are going to flip this over and put adhesive on the back. By the way, this piece is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8, and this one is 5 1/4 by 4. That one I know. And I'm just going to grab my liquid glue. I like the 1/8 inch border because it really accentuates the black on there. So let's just put that in the center. Okay. And then the last thing we're going to do, not the last thing, but almost the last thing. This is just 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, scored in the middle on the long side at 4 1/4. And just use your bone folder to make a nice little crease there. And then you can pop this up, but because we're putting that little van on there, I'm just going to make this flat because we're going to pop up the van. Coming together. I know this card took a little bit longer, but I think it's worth it to get this nice scenery picture like that. And then let's bring in our little tie-dye van, and I'm just going to take some dimensionals, put a couple on the back here. Like that. And then the last thing we want to do is grab our sentiment and I'm going to do a birthday sentiment. Let me bring back my Memento ink, and I think we'll put it right about, let's see, should we put it to the right, centered? Let's put it off a little bit like that. There we go. There's our little birthday card. I think that one makes me want to go on vacation. So I hope you enjoyed this project today. We are going to do one more version to this card. So I have another piece of cardstock, pretty much identical to the one we just used. And this one, we're going to use a different silhouette technique. So this is, again, let me just make sure I have the measurements right, 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. And we are going to take our 5 1/4 by 4 inch basic black cardstock, and we are just going to adhere these together. You can see that I tried a blue on the back here, but don't mind that. I was playing with colors, and you can experiment with different blends of the same tone to get that ombre look. All right. And we'll just put this on the front and line that up. before we play with the front of this, we are going to add that black land, and this time we're not going to use the little van. This one's going to be a little bit more of an elegant look. So I want to share with you the awesome die set that comes in this bundle, and it's called the palm dies, and I didn't take it out yet because I want to show you how I store these. So this is basically how it comes, and we'll slide this out. But on the back side, one of my teammates, Kathy, shared this with me. She takes a picture of the dies all on the little cardboard that I'll show you when I pull it out, and takes a picture of everything, and that way you always know every single die that goes in this set. You know, sometimes how we will get out so many dies and then it comes time to put them back again and we can't remember which set they went with. So this is a sure way for you to make sure that you get all the dies in there, and this is the complete set. So when I receive a new die set, I immediately take the picture, so I always know what that looks like. And then when you pull it out, this is what I actually took a picture of on my copy machine. Just pull this out and then just trim it down and put it inside. But look at all these fun dies. Oh, there's palm trees, and if you stamp, these are going to cut out the stamped images that you stamp on the paper. And then there's a fern and the sun again and coconuts. So it's just a really nice die set to work with. All right, so what I did first of all was I cut out 2 of these little grass things. And what we're going to do is put most of this one on here, and then part of this one on here like that. So this one's going to be cut off a little bit, but I want to place this before we put it on the card because we're going to trim this off. All right, so actually let's start with the left side and just put a little bit of liquid glue on there. And I don't really want it solid, so we're going to put a little gap in there, but mostly put it on. And we're not going to trim off the bottom, even though it goes a little bit below. That's all right. We are going to trim it. Let me get my paper snips. Just on the left side. And I think I'm even going to leave that little piece go over. That's fine. All right, now this one we're going to place over here, and I want a little gap in it so it's not perfect, and I don't want these to be symmetrical. So I'm going to flip it over to this side, and then I'm going to place it on here. However, I am going to use our foam adhesive strip because I want it to be popped up higher than all of this going on here. So I'm going to go like this, and maybe a little bit less like that, and then trim the right side off. And this one I will cut straight down. All right, so there's our 2 little pieces of land here. Now we are going to add 2 palm trees. And the first one, we are just going to adhere. Maybe we'll, do you like it off the page a bit or on? And the second one, we're going to have it lean the other way and go like this. Right, I think we're going to shimmy it over a little bit, and we're going to not trim it off, okay? And then this one will go like that. All right, because remember, we're not putting the little van on here. So let's add some adhesive down the back. And you don't have to fill it solid. Just little dots here and there. Or if you have adhesive sheets, that will turn this into kind of like a sticker. So remember, we're going to have a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch border here. So you can make it go over a little bit, but not more than 1/4 of an inch. Otherwise, it's going to stick out too far for your envelope. All right, then the other one, we want the curve to go the other way. So we're going to flip it to this side. And now this one, we are going to pop up again. And I'm going to take some more of my foam adhesive strip, and we may have to cut this down a little bit. I know it's really thin already, but we need it even thinner to do what we want to do. So I just split it down the middle, and then we're just going to add a little bit here, and then a little bit up here on top. And that way we're going to get dimension with these palm trees. All right, and we're going to go right here with that one. Isn't that pretty? And we're not going to add one to the left side because it's just going to get too busy here, and we're going to put our sentiment over there. So now what you're going to do is flip it over and then trim off the bottom. All right, move these to the side. All right, now we can do our sentiment, and I think I'm going to do another birthday. I need lots of birthday cards. So let me grab my Memento black ink, and let's see if we can place this. I think this time I'm going to put it down here. You really can put it anywhere. Play around with it. I don't know. Do you think up or down? Maybe up. Sometimes it's so hard for me to make a decision. I think right there is good. All right, the last thing we're going to do is just adhere this to the front of the card. Again, you could use dimensionals here, but because we have so much pop-up going on already, I think I'm just going to use the liquid glue. So this is 8.5 by 5.5 Coastal Cabana, scored in half on the long side. Whoops, at 4 1/4. Crease that and rub your bone folder on it, and then let's just adhere this to the front. So what I want you to do is, once you're done watching this video, and I'm going to put these side by side, I want you to tell me which one's your favorite. Let me get rid of all my extra things over here and take this away. So which one is your eye more drawn to? We have the one with the cute little retro van, or the more elegant one with the silhouette look.